All right, so picture this. You're trying to build one single powerful team, but your people are scattered all over the planet. How do you possibly create a unified culture when you've got an office in Tokyo, another one in Berlin, and a third in Sao Paulo? That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's the core challenge we're going to unpack today, the absolutely fascinating world of international human resource management. I mean, just take a look at a company like IKEA. They have 225,000 coworkers, and yeah, they're very specific about that word. They're not employees, in almost 500 stores across the globe. So what's the glue that holds them all together? Well, it's a core value they call togetherness, and it's super rooted in their Scandinavian heritage. It's this really cool idea that everyone, from the top executives to the people on the store floor, creates ideas together. It builds this incredible sense of equality and respect. It's just a brilliant example of a strong company culture that's managed to go global. But this just brings us right back to the central problem for any international company. How do you actually do that? How do you make a feeling of unity and purpose happen when you're working in dozens of different cultures, each with its own unique customs and expectations? This is the exact problem that international HRM is built to solve. At its heart, human resource management, or HRM, is pretty straightforward, right? It's about getting people in the door and making sure they're as productive as they can be. But what happens when you throw in thousands of miles, different languages, and completely new cultures into the mix? Well, that's when things get really, really complex, especially when we start talking about expatriates. Expatriates, or expats, as you've probably heard them called, are just people who are living and working in a country that isn't their home country. And let me tell you, managing this group successfully is one of the single biggest hurdles in global business. It comes with a whole unique set of challenges. We're talking deep cultural adjustments, incredibly complex pay structures, the whole shebang. We'll get into all that in just a bit. And this isn't some small niche issue. We're talking big numbers here. Just from the United States alone, there are roughly 300,000 citizens working abroad on international assignments at any given time. That number right there just goes to show you how absolutely critical it is for companies to get their international people strategy right. Okay, so let's say you're a company and you're ready to expand globally. What's your first move? Where do you even start? Well, the very first big decision you have to make is choosing a staffing blueprint. And there are basically three main approaches companies take to build their global teams. First up, you've got ethnocentric staffing. You can think of this as the headquarters knows best strategy. A company literally sends its own managers from the home office to run the show in another country. This is a really popular move for companies that want to keep a very tight grip on things and make sure their corporate culture is copied exactly in the new market. This second strategy is called polycentric staffing. This is the local leaders approach. It's the when in Rome strategy. Here, you hire managers from the host country, the country you're moving into, to run the local operations. The huge advantage, of course, is that they have this deep, intimate knowledge of the local market, the customs, and how business gets done there. And finally, there's geocentric staffing. This is the ultimate best person for the job approach. It doesn't matter one bit if the manager is from the home country, the host country, or some third country altogether. You just go out and hire the most qualified person you can find, period. This is how you build a truly global pool of management talent. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, because this table just lays out the critical trade-offs. Look at ethnocentric. Sure, you get to perfectly recreate your home culture. But the flip side? It's really expensive, and you risk being seen as a foreign company that doesn't belong. Now contrast that with polycentric. You get that amazing local knowledge, but you might lose some of that tight control you had over your operations. And finally, geocentric develops these incredible, adaptable global managers. But wow, look at the downside. That top-tier talent is in high demand, and it costs a fortune. So the key takeaway here is that there's no single right answer. The best choice depends completely on what a company's goals are. So, once you've picked your blueprint, you're faced with the next giant challenge, actually finding the right people. I mean, how does recruiting even work when your talent pool is, quite literally, the entire world? Well, the process really boils down to three core phases. First, you've got to take stock of who you already have. What are their skills? Do they speak other languages? Have they worked abroad before? Second, you figure out what you're going to need in the future as you push into new markets. And third, you build a rock-solid plan to actually go out and recruit and select those people. So where do you actually find these folks? Well, the search can start right at home. by looking at your current employees who might be ready for a new adventure. Or you could scout recent college grads from other countries, people full of fresh ideas. Other times, the smartest move is to tap into talented local managers who already know the market inside and out. Each one of these talent pools offers a completely different set of advantages. But recruiting internationally isn't just about finding skills. It comes with some really profound ethical responsibilities. And this story about Levi Strauss just brilliantly illustrates that point. When they discovered that their contractors in Bangladesh were hiring underage workers, they didn't just fire them and walk away. Instead, they paid for the children to go to school and then guaranteed them a job when they turned 15. It's just a powerful example of how to navigate incredibly complex local issues with a strong moral compass. Now, let's shift gears from the corporate process to the human experience. So you've hired the perfect person, you've sent them abroad. What happens next is often a major, major psychological journey. It's called culture shock, and it's not just about feeling a little homesick or missing your favorite snacks. No, it's a very real psychological process that can hit people hard when they're dropped into a totally unfamiliar environment. It can manifest as irritability, confusion, even depression. Essentially, it's the mental price you pay for having your entire daily reality turned completely upside down. People who go through it typically experience 4 stages. It all starts with the honeymoon phase, where everything is new and exciting and fascinating. But then comes annoyance, as all the little differences start to get under your skin. That's followed by recovery, as you slowly begin to understand the new culture. And finally, you reach adaptation, where you can actually appreciate and successfully navigate your new environment. It's a real roller coaster. But here's the crazy part. The thing that often surprises people the most is what happens when the assignment is over and they go home. It's called reverse culture shock, and for many people, it's actually even harder than the first time. It's the psychological stress of trying to readapt to your own culture. So here's why it can be so tough. When people go abroad, they expect culture shock. They prepare for it, they read about it, but nobody, and I mean nobody, expects to feel like a stranger in their own home. You've changed, your home has changed, and things that once felt completely normal now seem weird. It can be incredibly disorienting and just throws people for a loop. Finally, let's get into 2 of the absolute trickiest parts of this entire puzzle: money and management. How do you pay a global team fairly, and how do you navigate the super complex world of local labor dynamics? This picture of Singapore says it all, doesn't it? It's one of the most expensive cities on Earth. You simply can't pay an expat there the same salary you'd pay them in a much lower-cost country. The compensation has to be adjusted to match the reality on the ground. And that reality is something we call the cost of living. It's the total financial cost of maintaining a certain standard of life. We're talking housing, food, transportation, schools, all of it. This number becomes the absolute baseline for building any kind of international compensation package. But that's just the start. On top of that base salary, companies layer on all these other factors. There are cost of living adjustments, of course. There are often big financial bonuses just to incentivize someone to make the move. There's even something called hardship pay for assignments in particularly difficult or dangerous locations. And then you have to deal with incredibly complex tax rules and, this is a big one, understand the local relationship between labor and management, which can be completely different from country to country. So we end with this question, which really gets to the very heart of this whole thing. In this increasingly global world, what's the ultimate goal? Is it to create one single, unified corporate culture that spans the entire globe like IKEA's togetherness? Or is the real secret to success being flexible enough, being a chameleon, and adapting deeply to every single local culture you operate in? The answer, I think, probably lies somewhere in the middle. And finding that perfect balance, well, that's the true art of building a global dream team.